Well, I dreaded making this video, if I'm being completely honest. It took me this long. I think I took a little bit of a break from hockey. I kept tabs on scores and I watched, bits of games here and there, but seeing the Bruins lose, today is Monday, May 8th. I will say, watching Florida handle the Maple Leafs has me understand how actually good Florida was, and that was not luck. Handling the Bruins the way they did, because they did handle the Bruins, okay? If you did not know, okay, if you're watching this video, you likely know by now, but the Bruins were up 3-1 against the Panthers. Really, the Bruins didn't play great at all throughout the series against Florida. I would say 30% of the time they played decent, and the 70% they played absolutely terrible. They never played next level like they did all season long. And this is what everyone's talking about. The regular season means nothing. Well, in large part, it means not a whole lot. And we're seeing that now. A home ice doesn't mean a whole lot right now, especially in the playoffs right now. Yeah, it's tough. As for a Bruins fan, looking at it, you're kind of like, I'm definitely over it now, but I'm still very disappointed. Disappointed in seeing a team that's built so deep and just had so many issues. Issues where they didn't have them all season long. And the issues were really getting the puck out of the zone. Like, they had a plethora of other issues, but the main issues that screwed them over, goal after goal after goal, handling the puck in their own zone. Whether it's the goalie, whether it was defensive players, it was just a complete disaster every single time. And I shouldn't be watching the Bruins players being like, please get this puck out, please get this puck out. Every single time. Every time I was like, please get this puck out, please get this puck out. And now I'm seeing it with the Leafs. It's the same thing. The entries that Florida is doing is impeccable. If you look at the goal that was scored in overtime for Florida just the other night, they walked into the zone like it was nothing. And they shouldn't be doing that, for one, but it's the way they put pressure on you in your own zone, and then they get goals off it. It's something that, watching it, I'm like, how is this happening time and time again? The Bruins were going for clears time and time again, using one hand on the stick to chip it out, and I'm just like, what are you guys doing? I'm so confused still when I think about it. And the series, in many ways, could have been Boston's, and then Boston and Toronto, they probably have a 7-game series because they're so even. But Florida clearly is levels above everybody right now, and they're showing it. They're showing it. They've won, I think, 6 games in a row now. Bobrovsky is 6-1, I think he is. He came off the bench and played unbelievable. And against Boston, he actually didn't play that great. He had really good moments. As a whole, he was good enough, and that's what won Florida the game. I think, thinking about the series as a whole now, 7-game series, Boston, Florida. Boston really was lucky that it won 7 games. They went up 3-1, sure, but again, they never played the game of hockey like they did all season long. They had a historic season, but as fans, sure, we'll look back at the historic season and be like, wow, they won this many games. They won whatever it was, 64 games, whatever it was. Ullmark, unbelievable. Swayman, unbelievable. Pastrnak, over 60 goals. Like, this is something that for fans right now, we don't care about the regular season, right? You see Patrice Bergeron get thrown up for Selke. I'm just like, yeah, well, he might not even play next year, right? And they're already out of the playoffs, so what does it matter to me? You see Jim Montgomery get up there for Coach of the Year. Same thing. You're like, well, you got first rounded. In one of the biggest upsets in sports history, easily the biggest upset in NHL history. There was an over 40-point difference between these teams, and Florida, for the most part, stomped Boston. Absolutely stomped them. And the first few days for myself, they lost Sunday night, and then the first few days at work and stuff, I wear Boston sweaters and stuff, so everyone knows I'm a fan. It was hard, because they were just like, what happened? What happened? But in the first few days, I'm like, I don't even know what happened. Boston just played terrible. The best team that looked so deep that every time someone was like, your team could go all the way, and I would always say the same thing. I would say, well, if they don't win the cup this year, it's pure disappointment. Boston not only didn't win the cup this year, they lost in the first round. They lost in the very first round. I would always say, oh, it's pure disappointment if they don't win the cup, right? But the fact that they lost in the first round is beyond that. How different of a team are we going to see next year? Why would they keep the same team? Why would they? When they look at those mistakes that they made, when they look at who was good, who was bad, they're going to make so many changes, which is so disappointing because they had such a great regular season. I think this video, as it's kind of all over the place. I'm just talking about my disappointment for the most part of the Boston Bruins in the playoffs. At the same time, I think it's just one of those things I wanted to make this video. I was just like, when am I going to make this? When am I going to get this off my chest? Because the team choked so bad. And I think I can speak for all Bruins fans in saying that the regular season, it doesn't mean anything to us right now. And in the future, even if they have another President's Trophy year next year, as fans, for us, we're going to be like, cool. All right, let's go win the first, second, third round and get to the Stanley Cup final. That's all that matters to fans. We want to see a Stanley Cup, right? And I am lucky enough in my lifetime to have seen one in 2011. Many fans won't even see any in their lifetime at all for their teams, but it's still one of those things I think about, that it's like, sports are crazy, right? We all know this. Sports are something that there's so many highs and so many lows. It's so emotional, and we get so invested. I was saying this the other day to myself. I think it was to a coworker. I get so invested in something that I have no control over that it's actually probably not smart. If you're a Bruins fan and they lose and you are physically depressed, okay, well, maybe we should reassess how passionate we are as a fan base, because it shouldn't get to that point, right? And it's the same thing for like Leafs fans. You're seeing it right now. They're down 3-0 against Florida, and you see tons of Leafs fans making videos, and they're just so depressed. You can see it. You can see how by the way they're talking, but it's like, why? I know the disappointment has been there for Leafs fans, especially for like 2 decades. But at the same time, it's like you don't have any control over how they perform. So it's like, how do you find the happy medium between being a diehard fan and being a fan where you don't get too upset when they play absolutely terrible? Because again, we have no control over that. So I think that's what helped me, is I was like, okay, these guys, they're making great money. Outside of hockey, most of them, they probably have pretty good lives, good families, a lot of money. For the most part, I'm sure some have issues, and I'm sure maybe even many have issues. They have good lives. I have a good life. Why is it that their winning or losing makes me happy or sad? And that's what it was in the playoffs. They were up 3-1. Oh man, I would get 3-4 hours of sleep. I'd wake up in the morning, be ready to go. When they lost Game 7, I got like 6-7 hours of sleep. I should have been good. I should have been good to go that next day. Oh man, dragging my feet. It was awful. And I think as fans, we definitely need to find that happy medium. I'm going to say for myself, next season, I need to find that happy medium, because I'm looking at their historic season thinking, let's go, Stanley Cup, the parade's planned, let's get it going. And then they get first rounded by a team that barely made it into the playoffs. And a good team, but a team, regardless, that barely made it into the playoffs. Boston Bruins, I love you to death, but I am so disappointed in the performance, and I'm sure they are as well. If you're watching this, you're a Bruins fan, I'm sure you feel the pain. If you are watching this and you're not a Bruins fan, I don't know why you're watching this. Maybe you're watching it because you want to see how depressed I am and you want to see the things I have to say. They played terrible. They played so bad every game. Even the games they won, you're like, okay, there's a lot of room to be better, but they won, thank God. Right? And they're up 3-1, then it's 3-2, then it's 3-3, and then in Game 7, they're up with a minute left, give up a goal and lose in overtime. Like, it's hard. It's hard to go through the motions. It's just like in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final for Boston when they played St. Louis. I cannot watch the highlights of Game 7, right? The first 10 minutes, Jordan Binnington made every save possible, like 10 to 15 saves he made to keep St. Louis in it, literally didn't let anything in, and then St. Louis ends up scoring, winning the Stanley Cup, as we all know, unfortunately. And that game, I can't watch it. I will not watch it. And much of the highlights of this, we're going to see next year. They're going to address it. Boston media is going to address it. I don't even want to see it. I want to just move on. But anyway, this video is a one and done. I will not be talking about most of Boston hockey. It is done till next season for me. We'll probably talk some playoffs. Wow, a disappointing one if you are a Bruins fan. But watching the Panthers now, I'm kind of rooting for them. They're tough, they're gritty. We'll see how Florida fares. They are up 3-0 against the Leafs as I make this video. And we'll see how they fare going forward. I will be rooting for them nonetheless. But that will be today's video, me talking about the Bruins. Hey Bruins, you really sucked out there during the playoffs. Let's hope for a better year next year.